and girls, welcome in once again to the dungeon of the Doctors of Doom, where I am your host, Alex the Shark Sparks, and joining me this week is No. Well, it's our producer. No. It is our sponsor. Give it up for Chris the Man Lee, because he's showing up, showing out. Thank you so much for being here, Chris. Say hello to the Delvers out there, my friend.
Hello.
We have a show for you today. I'm not going to say it's going to be a great show. I hope it's a great show, but I don't want to lie. I hope it's good. But yeah, we got a show for you today. A lot going on. Kind of like the last couple weeks. We got basketball playoffs, hockey playoffs. Kentucky Derby happened recently. Baseball's there. Football wrapping up free agency and the draft and whatnot. So a lot going on. So Chris, I'm going to throw it to you. We did the Wheel of Destiny last time. This time I'm just going to throw it to you. You're the guest. What sport do you want to talk about first?
Oh man. Honestly, the sport I follow most these days is golf, but I won't go there just yet. Let's talk about the Kentucky Derby, because how amazing was that?
It was a wild one for sure. Go ahead and lay it out for us.
Yeah. So you have the Kentucky Derby. Obviously, these are young horses, and they're running on, I
Two to
think,
three, right? For Derby horse, it could
yeah,
be 2 or 3 years old.
2 to 3. I think it's a mile and a quarter, is it, Alex?
Well, the Derby is not as long as the Preakness, right? In the shorter race, I mean, it's still long.
Yeah, I thought Preakness was like a mile and a half.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
Derby is
maybe
a
that's right.
mile to a mile and a quarter. I know nothing about it, but we all like to pick the horses that are the long odds. It's never fun to pick the favorites, the 6 to 1s, the 7 to 1s. You kind of want to gamble a little bit and maybe get a little 12 to 1, a little 15 to 1. And so yeah, the main horse that everyone's talking about, Renegade, the Derby starts and immediately gets shoved by like 5 different horses. So Renegade's all the way in the back, and Renegade starts mounting a charge a little later in the race. But right next to Renegade is this beautiful horse called Golden Tempo, and they start charging down the stretch, and Golden Tempo actually ends up getting past Renegade and ends up finishing first, 28 to 1 odds. And you didn't realize how epic it was until they did kind of that like drone sky cam shot of how far back Golden Tempo was. Golden Tempo was behind Renegade.
Oh, he had a rocket up his butt. That's the only explanation. He came
Yeah, they
from
round that
nowhere.
final turn, and it was just all gas, no brakes.
Yeah, this is one of those, like, you can't write it better, right? An underdog horse who's getting clapped, to be honest, and all of a sudden he just kicks it into high gear, and nobody else was ready, and he made that run. A couple of big things. I mean, obviously it's a long shot horse to win. That's always news. The big comeback. It is, as you can see on screen here, for those looking at my screen, the first time a female trainer, a woman trainer, has won the Kentucky Derby. So that was new. It's kind of an old man's game, has been for a long time. So to have some new blood in there and new gender is pretty cool for the sport. As
Yeah,
it feels
yeah,
on the screen now.
absolutely. And it was cool to watch her go insane. I can only imagine what that feels like watching your horse mount that comeback.
Because you have
And
to think about the
uh,
emotional roller coaster she must have been on, Chris. Like, she's like an embarrassment, right? As it's going on, like, she's a woman. People might be like, "Oh, you're not supposed to be here." Not, and that's not true, by the way. But just like that's how people are. You know what I mean? Like, oh, she shouldn't be there. Her horse is getting last, and then all of a sudden this happens. Like, talk about a roller coaster.
yeah, man. And speaking of, so I was actually in New Orleans this weekend, and I was there for a bachelor party, and no joke, a guy that was in our group had money on Golden Tempo. He put a $25 bet on Golden Tempo. We all knew he did. So we're at this the hotel bar watching it. We've all had a little bit to drink throughout the afternoon, and just rooting Golden Tempo on for this guy who put a $25 bet on this horse and won like 700 was pretty bananas.
Yeah, that's wild, man. My dad actually, I mean, according to him, this is his story. He claimed that he liked Golden Tempo, but because he knew long shots never win, he tried to do a parlay style bet. I forget what they're called in horse racing, but like the play show Do you know what I'm talking about, Chris? Where you pick you,
I know what you're talking about. I
okay,
every year I go to Del Mar once, and I'm a professional gambler for a day, and
sure,
then
sure.
I completely forget about it afterwards.
But anyway, so he basically
Win show
he
place.
parlayed the favorites with Golden Tempo because he's like, well, Golden Tempo is the horse I like, and I'll put the favorites in there and all money. Golden Tempo wins a race, and the favorites did terrible, so he didn't get anything.
Oh no. Although if you did the do they call them trifectas or do they call them something like that?
Hmm.
If you had placed one on Renegade and one on Golden Tempo to finish either way, 1-2 or 2-1, that bet I bet would have paid out huge.
Yeah, I think win, place, and show is the terminology I was looking for. First, second, third, win, place, show. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, yeah. And so yeah, it was great to watch. And actually, it motivated me to watch Secretariat, which I've actually never seen. And, going with the theme of, females in the sport, I never realized, and I don't know, I'm pretty sure Disney, tried to play it close to the actual story. I never realized that the owner of Secretariat was a female.
Yeah, I feel like we're gonna get canceled for saying female over and over. We should be calling them women. We do apologize to women everywhere. We're not trying to be chuds,
I
but
mean, I'll call a man a male.
yeah. And I realized that when I said that, like I wasn't trying to sound like a d bag, but kind of came out that way. But yeah, I mean, women have always been involved in the sport of horse racing. Women love horses. It's just this is the first time a trainer was a woman. And you mentioned,
Which is weird
once a year
because
you. Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
in life, I've had cases with involving horses, and every trainer I've ever spoken with, every horse trainer I've spoken with is a woman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot more than you'd think. But just when you get to the big show, they want the old men that beat their horses.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like an old money thing, right? I'm sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Horses are crazy expensive, by the way. If you've never been to a horse auction, just look up the price of like top quality horses. Now I'm not talking about Kentucky Derby winning horses. Obviously, those are super expensive. But like just a decent horse, like they go for so much money. It's wild, man. Anyway, um, but yeah, it's cool. But once again, though, we have another year where like the Triple Crown's off the table. They've already announced he's not going to race in the next race. It's like, and I get that because the reason the Triple Crown is so hard is because they are different lengths. So different horses are made for different lengths of racing or trained for that. So I get that. But like, it does take a lot of like the cool factor out of like, oh, you have this underdog that wins. Maybe this underdog can go all the way. Like, nope, he's not even going to try. And I think last year, was it American Pharaoh last year, a couple years ago? Like he did, like he was the last one that did it. Like everyone else, like just doesn't go to the other races.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like it takes a lot out of it when you don't have the chance. Like it's super uncommon as it is. It's hard enough to do as it is, but like knowing it can't happen because he's not going to race, that kind of sucks.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. But I trust the trainers to know what to do with the horses. And if you're 28 to 1 at the Derby, you probably weren't training your horse or prepared to have it run all three, right?
For sure.
Yeah, so I can't hate on that decision, that's for sure. Um, But yeah, man, what a derby. I usually am not super excited to watch the derby. But this one, I was watching the reels and whatever repeat. Anytime it came on like on the TV on Sports Center or whatever, I stopped to watch because it was so incredible.
Yeah, I mean when you have a race where there's like some clear favorites and the race goes exactly the way you think it is, where like everyone does how they're supposed to do, the clear favorites win, blah blah. Like it's par for the course. Like it doesn't make it less of an impressive feat, but it's not as interesting. So this both being an underdog and the way he came from behind, that's what makes it a story, makes it interesting. So if you haven't seen the race, go watch it. It's not like super long anyway. It's a horse race. So
Yeah, I think it's like 2 minutes
yeah,
max.
yeah, it will not take up much of your time. So go check it out. Um, I've been to the Derby. It's a cool place. I've walked the grounds. I didn't get to see any horse racing there, but I've been there. So I feel like an expert to talk about this topic. But that's about all I've got on the topic. I don't really have much else to add to it. If you want to move on to something else there, Chris.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. While we're on the subject of women's sports, can we talk about the LPGA momentarily?
Go for it. I'll be honest. I'm not going to add much to this conversation, but you go nuts, and I'll do my best to back you up here. But
Do you know who Nelly Korda is?
I've heard the name.
Yeah, so you've heard the name because she's number one, she's an American golfer, and number two, she's probably the best American female golfer to have come around in at least a decade, if not 2 or 3 decades. Her sister is Jessica Korda, who also plays on the LPGA, and her brother is actually competitive in the ATP. So all around a very, very athletic family playing, I guess you could say like hoity-toity sports. But anyways,
Sure.
Nelly is on the run of her life, and it just sucks because, like with women's sports, you just don't hear about these types of runs, right? So,
Yeah, I mean, like
know,
perfect example, Chris. Like not to cut you off. I went to
yeah,
ESPN, went to golf. There's not a single women's thing on here.
no, impossible to find. Women's golf is probably like the most, in my opinion, one of the most underrated women's sports. And the reason I say that is because like it's cool to watch the PGA and you're watching these guys hit like, Rory McIlroy 330-yard drives, right? I'll never do that. But then you switch over to the LPGA and they're hitting drives like the average distance that like a decent male golfer would, right? So the season started at the end of January. And for those who don't know, in golf, you don't have to play every single event, right? You can opt out of certain events, and a lot of the really good players, they really pace themselves and they play only like 12 to 15 events a year, and like usually four of those are majors, right? Let's just go through Nelly Korda's track record since she started this year. Very first tournament called the Tournament of Champions. How do you think she finished?
I mean, based on the way you're prefacing it, I'll go with one.
Yeah, she finished first. The next one she played was in March called the Fortinet Founders Cup. How do you think she placed?
Give me three. We'll give her top three.
So she's number two, solo second,
Close.
okay, by one stroke, okay? She then hops over to the Ford Championship, and how do you think she finishes?
Well, that one's not on my screen, so I have to guess. I get. Oh no, Ford Championship, second place. I just got it on the screen now.
You're looking now.
I am now.
Second place, okay? And then she heads over to the Aramco Championship the following week. How do you think she finishes?
Well, I can see it on my screen now, Chris. So 12th.
Yeah, T12, okay? So she tied for second,
Sorry,
okay?
T2, not 12. No, you're right. That's a T. My bad. My bad.
Yeah, yeah. And then she goes to the Chevron Championship, which is the first major of the year, wins it by 5 strokes, turns around last week and wins the next event by 4 strokes. I mean, this is like, I'm sure Tiger did this at some point, but this is like Tiger level golf.
Oh yeah, five events to start the year, and in those five events you get second, 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 first, first. Like that's a run and a half, man.
Yeah, so props to her, man. Nelly Korda. I don't think that she gets enough props. She represents the USA every year that the Olympics are on. And, I hope she keeps holding it down for America because she really is the best American golfer by a long shot, especially in the LPGA, which has been really dominated by actually like Asian women because for whatever reason, a bunch of Asian women play professional golf in Asia. And so a lot of times, you've got like Thailand that's really good, South Korea that's really good, Japan is solid. And so it's really good to see an American golfer really sort of take the reins of women's golf and hold it there.
And also just an anecdote here, like it goes to show you how varied golf courses are as far as their difficulty. Ford Championship, she's 26 under par, second place. The very next event, Aramco, she's 2 under par, second place. That is a 24 stroke difference for the same placing. Like
Yeah.
like Shadow Creek must be a hard freaking golf course because if you look at
Yeah.
all the other scores she put up and then look at Shadow Creek, man, that was either a rough weekend for everybody or that course is tough.
Yeah, yeah, it's super tough. It's in the middle of Vegas and the wind blows out there from what I understand. So, but yeah, anyways, I don't know if we're losing listeners. We started with horse racing and then LPGA. So, I mean,
Hey,
no offense to
hey, keep it
either, but
obscure,
they're
Chris.
not
I
major
love it. I
sports.
love it. Hey, look, if you're listening to our podcast in the downtime of the year, and by downtime I mean when football's not happening, this is what you sign up for, all right? You sign up for these stories, all right? You're not getting this content anywhere else. You know what I'm saying? If you listen to Cowherd this morning, or you listen to Dan Levitard, or Dan Patrick, you listen to all these guys, and they're not talking LPGA, but we are, right here on the Doctors of Doom Fantasy Football Sports Podcast.
No one is leading off with these two.
USA. USA. All right.
USA.
But yeah, no, she's on a run and a half, so good for her, and hopefully she can keep it rolling. Also, like it's another thing about women's golf. It is wild how early they can go pro, and how short their longevity is compared to the men. Like I just happen to notice. I mean, this is an anecdote, but just looking at her is like she's 27. She went pro in 2016, so she went pro as a 17-year-old. Because we're in 2026, right? So she went pro as a 17-year-old, and it's like that's crazy. She's been in this for 10 years, and she's only 27. That's high school.
Yeah.
When I was 17, I was still in high school.
Yeah, it makes me wonder, like, because, knowing myself, I wasn't mature enough to play any sport at any level when I was that age. But it's amazing that, these professional golfers come on scene, have success, and then continue that sustained success. Doesn't get talked about enough. Everybody always talks about the people that fall. I think, people like Nelly Corda who continue to be a shining example for everybody, they deserve a little credit too.
And I have to ask, do you think the maturity level is the only reason you didn't go pro at 17, or was there also the lack of athletic ability that played a factor?
I mean, maybe, but I really think it was my inability to handle the mental stress of a professional sport.
Especially something like a golf or a tennis where you are solo, like not a team sport, like a sport where it's all on you. You know what I mean? That's so much more mental stress, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I will argue till the end of the day, the end of days, that I think golf and tennis, because like you're in there by yourself, no coach to talk to. I think mentally those are of some of the hardest professional sports.
I mean, I don't know if I'll go that far on golf just because you guys know how I feel about golf. But tennis for sure. Like, not to mention it's like the amount of athleticism it takes to play tennis. I mean, they've dulled it down. A lot of things are 3-set matches now, but used to they played 5-set matches, and they still do it at some of the major tournaments. Like 5 sets in the sun, all in your own head, and you can maybe take 2 timeouts a match to talk to your coach for 30 seconds. Like, oh man, that's a rough go.
Can they talk to their coaches now?
You can call timeout and talk to your coach. Like I said twice, maybe it's only once a match.
Was that always the rule? Because when we were like, doing the ball boy thing for the Indian Wells Tennis Open, I always felt like, back in that time, they weren't allowed to talk to their coaches, but maybe the rules have changed.
Well, so I think what happened was like players would like break their racket and have to take it to their coach to get fixed, and that was allowed. And then people would be getting free advice like during that time, and they kind of realized like, hey, maybe let's let them talk to their coach for a minute. If they're gonna do it anyway, let's just make it legal. I think is kind of what happened. Now that's my speculation, but I think that's because like I remember there were plenty of times where like when I was doing the ball kid thing, a player would like have an issue with their strings and they couldn't get it fixed themselves, so they'd run the racket to their coach to do it, and it's like, well, that's allowed, so they're allowed to get advice because the coach can act like he's just talking about the racket. How tennis players from all over the world, right? If some Swiss girl goes over there and they start speaking Swedish, we're not gonna know what they're talking about. We don't know if they're talking about the strings or if he's talking about, hey man, you need to play more to her backhand.
Just make the ump know all the languages.
Yeah, so unless you have a multilingual umpire up there, you're gonna have a bad time. All right,
Oh,
cool.
that's good. All
Let's
right.
we'll rotate it back here. Rotate it back. Any more obscure sports before we get to some of the major sports?
No, no, let's talk major sports. I don't know how much I have to contribute, but always here for the ride.
All right, well, real quick, we'll talk about the one that Mitch was texting us about today. The Champions League. You got PSG taking on Bayern today. Game started off quick with a 1-0 lead for PSG, and they held on to win it. And Yeah, it was a great game to watch. At least I got to watch the first half. I didn't get to watch the second half, but the first half there was so much action. Like, yeah, there's only the one goal. Don't people get all up about that when it comes to soccer? But in the first half, but it was action packed the entire time, and there were some horrendous referee calls, which are always fun to argue about and talk about. They should have had a man sent off. He should have had two yellows, but he got away with one. And yeah, it was entertaining to watch. I didn't, like I said, I didn't get to see the whole game, unfortunately, but when you have some of the best teams in the world playing against each other with some of the best players in the world on both sides, it's always a good time. I don't know if
Yeah,
you saw
yeah.
that.
So Mitch said we had to watch it,
He
and
did.
so I turned it on and I had it kind of running. Um, and I was doing work while I was watching, so I was kind of doing a little bit of both at the same time. Uh, I only pay attention when something happens, and because not much happened until like what, the 94th or the 95th minute,
Yeah,
I
honestly, the game, the way the game played out was like really bookended. The first goal was at 3 minutes into the match, right? By Dembele, who is a defender, or not a defender, excuse me, he's a player for Team France. I mean, he plays for PSG, but he also will be on the French national team. And then it wasn't until the 94th minute, which is, you know, extra time, injury time, whatever you're going to call it, in the second half, that Harry Kane, the captain of Team England, scored the goal to tie it. So, like, which is epic, right? Like, it's epic that they got that goal at the last minute, but it also kind of sucks that PSG scored so early that, like, the whole game was a 1-0 game until then, and then that's when they get the tie. But
Okay, so I have a quick question, a quick point of contention. So they score that goal, and all of a sudden I start paying attention, right? Because I hear
right.
something going on. And then I'm watching, obviously, because I think there were only supposed to be like 4 or 5 minutes of extra time, and it's the 94th minute. And like, Byron has the ball, and yeah, like it sort of gets taken away, but then like they have the ball again, and the guy's about to I don't know what the term is, but he's about to take the ball and pass it to his teammate, and then they call the game, they call the match, should I say rather, and I'm kind of like, and they were on their half of the pitch, right? Bayern was. And I'm like, I know you have to call it at some point, but like, how do you decide that as a ref?
Yeah, the whole concept of injury time, like, I get it, but also hate it, because like the whole premise is you want to make it where any of the time wasting is accounted for. Like when there's people that are injured or fake injuries or setting up free kicks or what have you, you make that time up with injury time. Well, for starters, it's not a 1-to-1 ratio because there's probably 10 minutes of injury time in every game, and there's only like 4 or 5 minutes that are given at the end. So it doesn't make up all the time, right? And number two, like you said, it's arbitrary when they call it. Now, technically speaking, you're not supposed to call it when someone's currently on the attack, right? But at the
Yeah,
same time, you also you can call it if they're like in the attacking third, but they're just passing around and not actually doing anything with it because they're just burning clocks. It's like when do you, when don't you? It's very arbitrary, and it's okay because that is like that's how it is in every game, and it affects every team the same way. I'm kind of one of those guys that, like, I've talked about this with baseball. I don't care if the umpire gets the strike zone wrong, as long as his strike zone is the same wrong way the entire game, right? If he's
right.
calling strikes when a ball's thrown below your knees, I'm fine with it as long as he calls that strike all game for both teams, because both teams know that is where the strike zone is for this game. So that is part of it with these umpires, but as you said, like, they're not all the same is the problem in soccer. And so, like, because it's a once a game or twice a game, I guess, into the first half and into regulation, because it only happens twice a game, you can't get used to what's going to happen because you don't know until you like know these officials. But like, you may not know these officials in a thing like the Champions League, where it's leagues from all around the world. I mean, Bayern Munich plays in Bundesliga, which is in Germany. Paris Saint Germain plays in the French National League. So like in France, obviously, like these two teams may not share the same referees, so they may not have the same experience. Because to be fair, to referee this match, they probably would have picked a referee from like the English Premier League, for example. I'm making this up. I don't know who the ref was, but you get what I'm saying. Like you pick a ref from a third league entirely, so there's no bias.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
they have no idea how he calls matches because they're not in that league.
Yeah.
So
Like a small part of me is like, listen, if you're in injury time, extra time, whatever they call it, and you're the team that's down and you have possession of the ball on your half of the pitch, like maybe you shouldn't call it then. right? Like maybe there should be like I don't know if it's a gentleman's rule or an actual rule. Like it should be like I get it. If you're on the other team's half of the pitch and you're down, like call it. Who cares, right? Like you'd have to kind of mount the attack and everything. But when you're on your half of the pitch and you have the ball and you're in extra time and you're mount they weren't mounting an attack necessarily, but like it just seems like an interesting time to call it if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, one thing you could do. I mean, it doesn't really apply as much here because it's a tie, a draw. But one thing you could do is make it where you cannot call time if the team that is behind has the ball. Doesn't matter where on the pitch they are. If let's say this is before they scored that goal, right? Let's say Bayern Munich has the ball, they're down 1-0. Umpire, referee cannot call the game until Paris Saint-Germain takes control of the ball. That would make it
Yeah,
interesting towards the end.
I would
Sometimes.
be okay with that, right? Just like give them one more shot on goal,
And it has to be
right?
actual control. Like it can't be like, oh, Bayern Munich takes a shot and it gets reflected off the goalkeeper, so they touched it last. No, no, no. They have to actually get possession of the ball.
And
Then you
that's
can call it.
exactly what happened in this situation. Bayern um, had the ball. They started mounting the attack. The Bayern player kicked the ball. It was deflected off a PSG player, and then another Bayern player was about to take possession of the ball, and then they called it.
Yeah, but the problem with in this scenario is the whole where my argument falls apart is this game was a tie, right? It was a draw. So my argument of like the team that's down can't lose the game, like the game can't without the ball. Like no team is down here. Like
I get what you're saying. I
PSG
get what
had,
you're saying.
PSG
I was looking at
advanced
the
on
aggregate.
points, but like
Yeah.
you don't know that going into every game who's going to advance on points. Like if this was game one, you're not going to know who's going to advance on points in game one.
That's a good point. I guess that's the benefit of coming in as PSG with the upper hand in aggregate, right?
Yeah, yeah. For those who don't know, you're like, why did PSG win when they tied? They didn't win this game. This game was a draw. What they did was they advanced to the final because the way these groups work, it's based on aggregate points. And coming into this match, Bayern had to beat PSG to have more aggregate points. So that was the one part of the game that did kind of take away from the game. If you knew going in that Bayern had to win, and then they were down 1-0 at the 3-minute mark, and the game was 1-0 the entire time, that equalizer goal by Kane in the 94th minute, while epic, didn't actually mean all that much because they still needed a second goal for it to matter.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so that's my brief hockey talk. I want to talk about that game. If you're into the Champions League, the final is coming up in a few days. I know it's not tomorrow, but they're usually like a week apart. I'm not sure when. So, yeah, I don't have that handy.
You're
Is there a way
playing
to...
Arsenal, right?
Yeah, it's against Arsenal. Let me see. Leagues and here we go. Yeah, Champions League. Here we go. This might do it for us. Fixtures and results. I just want to see. Yeah. I give up, man. I don't know when it is. Sorry.
It's all good.
Google it. Google it if you want to know. But yeah, still one game left. The finals. All right. Let's move on to the big four, as it were. Well, big three really. Basketball, football, and hockey. 'Cause I don't really have any baseball talk unless you do. Do you have any baseball talk before we go on to the big three?
All I have to say is I haven't watched any baseball. Last night I was at a Mexican restaurant with Taryn. Happy Cinco de Mayo, everybody. And the Pods were down 4-1, and then they had a 5-run inning, and just watching that was awesome.
Yeah, I mean that is one of the one cool thing about baseball, like compared to other sports, the equivalent of a 4-1 lead, right? Like in football, that's what 28-7. You know what I mean? That's usually
Yeah.
not overcomable. In soccer, not overcomable. In hockey, possible but very rare. In baseball, that can change in an inning. That's the one cool thing about baseball is like that's the one sport where the score just does not matter nearly as much as in other sports. You go down
Absolutely.
multiple scores in most major sports, you're going to have a bad time with the exceptions of basketball and baseball. And basketball has a clock, baseball doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
You can't run out the clock as it were in baseball. You actually have to get the outs. All right. So, and by the way, just for clarity, me saying big three and not counting baseball in that is not me knocking baseball. It's right now the Sixers are on the screen. Right now, NBA and NHL are both in the playoffs, which is why they're big. And the NFL is king, so it will always be big. So
Yes,
that's why I
sir.
said they're the big three. I realize that other times of the year, like come July, the big three will include soccer because the World Cup is happening. You know what I mean? If you live anywhere else in the world besides the U.S., soccer is always part of the big three. I'm just saying right now, the current present big three. I got NBA, NHL, NFL. That's
No
my prediction.
objections here.
Okay, so let's talk some basketball first, if that's cool with you, Chris.
Yeah, let's go.
So basketball in the playoffs, as you can see on screen right now, halftime matchup between the Sixers and the Knicks. It's a 1 point game, close game. But let's go to the playoff bracket here. Have you been watching any of the basketball playoffs?
I'm not.
Okay, fair enough. I haven't watched much of it either, so we'll just kind of go over what I've talked about on the pod before. So Lakers ended up winning their series. Thunder swept the Suns as we knew. Spurs blew up the Trailblazers as we knew. T-Wolves ended up winning that series, which I think is a bit of a surprise. I think a lot of people thought the Nuggets might be the team coming out of the West to challenge the Thunder. I know I did, so that was a surprise. When Wemby went down, I was like, okay, this might be the Nuggets' year. It was not. So yeah, we have, quite frankly, what appear to be two very uninteresting series in the West remaining. Spurs are heavy favorites, and didn't Ant get injured for the T Wolves? I think happened. I don't know if he's
Oh, did he
okay though,
really?
but
I was about to say that's the only player I know on the Timberwolves.
he's the only player, and he was. I don't think it's a major injury, but like he did get injured, so we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, I mean Spurs already up a game. Spurs expected to win, and then the Thunder already the favorite, already expected to win, up a game on the Lakers, and they announced today that it is not expected that Luka will be back in time to play in this series, which means
That's a bummer.
the Lakers without their best player. And that's no shade to LeBron, and that's not just me being a Luka homer. LeBron's my age. He's 40. Luka's not. Okay? Luka's their best player. He's not going to play in this series, so when you have the best team in the NBA playing against a team that is missing their best player, they're going to win that series. So I don't see any chance of it not being Thunder Spurs coming out of the West. Do you see any scenario where that's not the case?
No, and I sort of lied to you a moment ago. I did see on the TV baseball was going on and the Thunder's Lakers was going on. And just from the little bit that I saw, I mean, it just doesn't even look close. There's I don't want to say talent disparity, but the Thunder, the tenacity, I think the Lakers at one point got it to like 3 or 4 points. But if you were just watching the game and keep an eye on it, like there was no way the Thunder were going to lose that game.
Yeah, I mean, it was an 18-point game, which is still pretty big, to be honest. And but yeah, you're not going to compete with the best team without your best player. That's just not going to happen, right?
Hmm.
We saw it with the Celtics; they didn't have their best player, and they didn't get out of the round one, which we'll talk about in a second. So yeah, I think the West is pretty well set. Let's go to the East. East is the one that I said was wide open going into it, and and the one thing I did say was I said, quote, the Knicks would be my favorite on paper, but I don't trust them. Well, so far so good, because if we'll go through the series here, Pistons and Magic. Magic blew a 3-1 series lead. Now granted, the 8 seed should not be beating the 1 seed, but they were up 3-1. Pistons battled back to win, and so this series just kind of blows for everybody, because like if you're the Pistons, like you had to go to 7 games with the Magic, so you're not feeling great about yourself. And you know what the Magic did after the series, Chris?
No idea.
They fired their coach. That's right. They were the 8th seed. They took the 1 seed to 7 games, but because they blew that lead, he got the axe. So Magic fire, they go 7 games. Magic fire their coach. Pistons squeak by, and then they move on. The only
I love
actual
that for them.
Yeah. And then Cavs Raptors. I'll be honest, I have nothing to say about this. I didn't watch any of the games. Just didn't really care about either of these teams. Looked like it might have been a good series though. Went 4-3, but the expected team did win in the end. So you have Pistons Cavs. Moving on to the Knicks Hawks series. This is the one. Like I said, I thought the Knicks were the best team coming out of the East. If they don't choke like they always do. And as you can see by that score of 140-89 in the closing game against the Hawks, they did not choke in round one. The Knicks put it together. They struggled a little bit in the first couple of games, but then they just mollywomped them with big wins back to back to back to take the series. So Knicks move on. And then lastly, Celtics Sixers. Celtics been dealing with injury the entire time, and they finally had to shut down their best player going into Game 7, which is not the time you want to shut down your best player, but you got to do what you got to do. And sure enough, the Sixers did end up winning that game. You have to imagine if the Celtics were healthy, they might could have come out of it. But as a result, we now have a 7 seed in the next round. So we had one upset basically on both sides of the bracket.
Yeah. And, given your prediction of the Knicks, they might just have a cakewalk to the finals this year, and that might be their saving grace.
Mm-hmm.
They got past the Hawks, which, I do agree. Point differential was impressive the last two games with the Hawks. And then I think the point differential against the 76ers last night was pretty good too. But, let's say they go on and beat this seven seed Sixers team. There's a possibility that the Cavs are in the Eastern Conference Finals. And, I don't know much about the Cavs, but it seems like the Knicks might be able to sneak by going against a 6 seed, a 7 seed, and a 4 seed to get all the way to the finals.
Yeah, and I mean, even if they have to play against the Pistons, the Magic took them to a 7-game series, and I asked Vinny this question. I talked about it with him. I'll ask you: did you know the Pistons were even in the playoffs before you looked at this bracket?
Until I listened to the pod, I had no idea
Yeah.
who was and wasn't in the playoffs, and them being number one is a huge surprise to me. Like I could have probably guessed Raptors, Knicks, Celtics, in the East, and that's with me watching zero basketball in probably the last decade. Never would have imagined Pistons had a number one seed.
Yeah, I would have probably been able to guess Cavs, Raptors, Knicks, Hawks, Celtics, Sixers. I would have had no clue about Pistons, Magic. Whereas on the other side of the bracket, I could have guessed, I think, all of them except for the Blazers. So, anywho, so now in this side, I think it's much more wide open. As we discussed, I think it could go either way, Pistons or Cavs. Right now, the Pistons are up a game. They're getting 3.5 points at home, which is nothing in basketball. So they think that's a toss-up. Knicks currently up a game, but game 2, which is also on home court, so they should be winning. Currently down a point, so we'll see what happens there. If I had to pick right now, I would pick Pistons Knicks just because those are the top 2 seeds remaining. And I'll also say, even though the Pistons did have to go to 7 games, the fact they won 3 in a row, they're putting it together, and the fact that their opponent, the Cavs, also went to game 7, so it wasn't like the Cavs got a bunch of rest, right? Some of these other series, like they might have gotten, if the Cavs had won their series 4-1, they might have been resting for a week, right? That didn't happen here, so it's not like they're coming in, they need fresher legs. So I think there's a good chance we see chalk going into the finals here. And then from there, who's your pick out of the West and the East to make it to the big dance?
Man, not knowing anything about anything,
100%.
I would say Thunder out of the West. I've just heard good things about them
Yep.
since the season started. I've always sort of known that they were the ones to take down, and they looked like the real deal in the little bit that I saw last night on the TV. And then coming out of the East, I'm gonna say it's the Knicks, man. I'm looking at these 4 teams that are left, and when you're talking about teams on the East Coast that are, I know the Knicks have never gotten it done, or they rarely get it done, but when I'm looking at who's left, it just seems like the Knicks might be standing out.
Yeah, I mean, same. I think the Thunder are just, they're too good. They just are. And like I said, I still think the Knicks are going to find a way to choke it, but I don't want them to. I'm going to root for the Knicks, I guess, from this side, just because I've never been a big fan of any of the teams left, and may as well root for a team to finally get over the hump and not be such a laughing stock anymore. It's nice to have. We've been on Team USA bandwagon here. Let's have New York be good, but I do think the Thunder are going to win it all, barring a miracle.
The
So we'll see.
spread, the spreads on the games in the West are wild.
Yeah, look at the spreads in the West versus the spreads in the East. I don't know what the spread was in the Knicks Sixers game, but you can see the Pistons Cavs spread, and then look at the spreads in these two games: 10.5 and 15.5.
spotting double digits in a playoff game is insane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially when you consider the Timberwolves won game one against the Spurs, and the Spurs are still 10.5 point favorites.
Yeah. That's impressive.
Yeah,
It would be fun to see either I don't know about the Lakers, but it would be fun to see the Timberwolves sort of surprise the Spurs, but we'll see.
yeah. I mean,
And I don't mean on like getting past them. I'm just saying like taking them to, a game 6 or 7.
yeah. I mean, I love rooting for the underdogs normally, but like it's so hard to root for the underdogs because like there's really only four teams on either side that can like going in. For example, like I really thought that the West was going to be Thunder, Spurs, Nuggets. There's only three teams I gave a chance. Obviously, I was wrong. T Wolves beat the Nuggets, but like those are three teams that I gave a chance. The East was a little more wide open, but I did say due to the injuries to the Celtics, I thought it was probably going to be the Knicks because I don't believe in the Pistons. So here we are. Nothing's really changed about that other than the Nuggets getting upset. So who knows? Maybe the T Wolves will go on a run and we will have an underdog, and it'd be kind of wild for Minnesota of all people to win in the NBA. So
Yeah, it'd be great. I like Ant. I don't, like I said, I'm not really watching much. This is the 27th time I've said that, but I think what I've seen from Ant Edwards is good stuff.
I mean, when you've look, LPGA takes 4 days per event. You know what I mean? You got the Derby, which takes 2 minutes of your time. You don't have time for basketball. I understand.
And we didn't even talk about the PGA. That's my life is consumed by golf.
Uh, all right, let's move on then to well, do you have any other NBA anecdotes before I move on to NHL?
No, no, let's move on to the NHL.
All right, let's talk some hockey. Now I'm sure you've been watching all the hockey games, right? You're a huge hockey fan.
Gigantic hockey fan. At your pleading, which I would call it pleading at this point,
Hmm.
based on the prior pods, I did turn on Flyers Hurricanes game 2 for maybe 30 minutes.
That's a good game
And it was right after the Flyers had scored two, like back to back, essentially. Um,
to tie it up, right?
no, no, they won up 2-1.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, but they were down 1-0. Is what I mean. Yeah. They were down 1-0 and
Yeah,
they scored
yeah.
two in a row. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then the Canes just kept shooting themselves in the foot. Like they just kept giving power plays up, for
Hmm.
like boneheaded penalties, I guess. That coach though on the Canes, he looks like he's the villain straight out of a Disney movie.
Yeah, there's some interesting looking people on sidelines in hockey for sure. Like there's some great mustaches and things, and because a lot of them are like former players too. So like they get just as angry and want to fight like the players, but they know they're not allowed to. It's fun to watch. But
It was
yeah, so
good
just,
watching though. It was fun.
yeah, so we'll break down some hockey. The Avs just look absolutely unstoppable. They swept the Kings, and I'm just going to show you the Avs Wild Series real fast, Chris, to show you a score here. What was the score? 9-6 was the score in
Oh
Game One,
my
Chris.
gosh.
9-6. There was a meme that I saw. Uh, how many of your teams scored less points in a game this year than the Avs? Talking about football teams, and sadly, both your Cardinals and my Raiders were on that list of teams that had a game where they scored less points than the Avalanche did in Game One
Not
when they
surprising.
scored an avalanche of goals. So yeah, Avs by far looking like the best team. They have been unstoppable. Stars and Wild Stars. I've talked about this before in the pod. 3 straight Western Conference Finals. Fire the coach. The coach is the problem. Well, he obviously wasn't the problem because you didn't just lose to the Wild. You lost 4-2. You didn't even take it to 7.
Ouch.
Yeah, in the first
Ouch.
round, getting bounced. Big L for the Stars. Wild have a couple of the stars from Team USA. They have Boldy, who scored that amazing goal, best goal I've ever seen in the championship game. And then they have Quinn Hughes, the Hughes brother that was our best player, not the one that scored the game-winning goal. So they have a couple of big American heroes on that team. So I kind of wanted to be for them, but the Avalanche is too good. Golden Knights and Mammoth. I just thought it was cool that the Mammoth got there. I mean, like I talked about, they're in their second season, I think, right now. So the fact that they're already playing in the Stanley Cup, playoffs is a huge deal. Even though they, didn't do all that great, it's still great that they got there. And then with the Ducks eliminating the Oilers, we have officially going to finally have a new finals appearance because the last 2 years it has been Panthers Oilers in the finals, And this year, Panthers didn't make the playoffs, and Oilers are out in round one. So we're going to have a brand new team in the finals. It also means that I think Connor McDavid, the best player in hockey, his days as an Oiler are numbered, which is fine by me. I'd love for the best player to not play for a Canadian team. Love for him to come play for some other team so I can avoid having a Canadian team threaten the cup. So that's my brilliant analysis there. Moving into the second round, as it were, Avs Wild. As I mentioned, I think the Avs are a heavy, heavy favorite. I would like for the Wild to do well because of the American players on there. Not that there's not Americans on the Avalanche, but just because of the American hero players on the team. And then Golden Knights and Ducks. I think this series is much more of a toss-up than the other one. Golden Knights did win game one, but the Ducks are one of the highest scoring teams in hockey. So now they also don't have great defense, which they get scored a lot too. So anytime you have a high-scoring series, they can be entertaining. And obviously, growing up, I was a Mighty Ducks fan. They're no longer mighty, but they're still the Ducks. Chris, do you have any kind of connection to any hockey team at all being in Southern California?
I don't, but I'm gonna say you and I should. I don't want to say pie bet, but we should have a little bet on the Knights, Golden Knights versus the Ducks. I don't know why, but I kind of like the Golden Knights. I think it happened kind of like you guys were talking about in the prior pods. Like it's kind of cool to see a new team do well.
Yeah.
And when they were doing well, I think in their first playoff run, their first or second playoff run, I kind of started watching them a little bit. And it kind of helps that I have friends in Vegas and stuff. And as you know, we enjoy Vegas as well.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I'm
next time we go to
rooting for the
Vegas, we
Golden
absolutely need to go to a Golden Knights game. I'd love that.
Oh my gosh, that would be so epic. And that way we're not at a away game when we're at the Raiders Stadium.
Oh, yeah, it would be nice to have home fans, for sure.
Yeah. And when you're watching the Golden Knights games, they definitely have home fans.
Have you ever been to a hockey game in person?
I have not. And I hear if you go to a Golden Knights game, they have free tattoos.
Interesting. I assume it's like a specific tattoo, not like whatever you want. Like a
Yeah, I
Golden
think
Knight
it's a
tattoo.
Golden Knights tattoo.
Yeah, that's wild. So you want to go to a game and get a tat? Is that what you're saying?
I will skip the tattoo.
No, you don't. You
I
don't want
don't
to do a tattoo bet on the series? Good,
I
because I
don't
don't
want to
either.
do I don't want to be a five man.
5 man.
But that's a throwback. But it would be super fun to go to I think it would be super fun to go to a hockey game in Vegas.
Dude, the 5 man thing is even more frustrating because, so for those who don't know what 5 man is, we got some temporary henna tattoos back in the day. Panama City Beach, Florida, we're chilling. Everyone's getting cool tattoos. Chris got the Incredible Hulk breaking through a wall that covered his entire back. Looked fantastic. I got a Superman emblem that's maybe the size of your palm on your shoulder. That was not like any S I'd ever seen. It was the number 5, and so everyone called me 5 man. I then had an allergic reaction to it afterwards, which is a whole other story. But the point that I'm making is I had a tiny Superman logo, and they messed it up horribly. You got the Hulk covering your entire back, and it looked awesome. How is that fair? How does that
I don't know
work?
if we had the same. I don't know if we had the same person though. I'll be because like I think that
Well,
yeah
it was the same store. It might not have been the same person, but it was the same store that
yeah
we
you
went
had
to.
the guy it was his first day on the job.
Yeah, probably, yeah. Oh, man. Brutal. Anyway, so... Yeah, cool to find out that they're rooting for the Knights. I mean, if you can come up with a bet to place on it, I will. I mean, you got to give me some kind of handicap because I am already down a game. But I'll make some kind of bet. Maybe not a
Oh
pie bet.
come on! You just called it a toss up.
Yeah, it is a toss-up, but there's a difference between analyzing it and thinking it's a toss-up and having to place a bet when I'm already down a game. Your team is the higher seed and up a game, and you want me to give you even odds? What's that about, man?
All right. I'll think of something.
We'll think of something. All right. We'll move on to the other side. Sabres Bruins, didn't have much to say about that. I'll be honest, that's the series that I probably watched the least of. I don't think I saw any of the Sabres Bruins. The only highlight I saw of that was Josh Allen being there to root on the Sabres being in Buffalo. So I don't really have any analysis there. I apologize, fans. Moving on. Lightning Canadians. Man, I was so for the Lightning here because the Canadians are the only Canadian franchise left in the playoffs, and once they were eliminated, I'd be able to sleep peacefully knowing that once again Lord Stanley's Cup is staying in the United States. But hey, at least you're still a villain. If you're me, if you're not me, then it's not a villain. It's your hero, right? If you're rooting for Canada, you got someone left. As you can see, Game 1 going on right now. Sabres up 4-2 at the end of the second period. So let's go Sabres. Keep that chain rolling. Moving on, Hurricanes Senators. That series was so fun to watch. It was a 4-0 sweep, but most of the games were close. There were some overtime games. It was really interesting to watch. Speaking of, I think every single series in the first round had at least one overtime game. Another reason to love hockey. I think that, yeah, every single series had at least one overtime game in the first round, including, sadly, the Penguins-Flyers series. Flyers went up 3-0. Penguins battled back to make it 3-2. And then in Game 6, Penguins outshot and outplayed the Flyers so much. I think it was like the Flyers goalie had like 40-something saves. It was insane. That game went to overtime. They're the only series that hadn't gone to overtime yet. They go to overtime. And even though the Penguins were by far the better team that night, the Flyers finally got a goal to go on just a long shot from the blue line that the goalie couldn't see. And won at 1-0 in OT, eliminating the Penguins. Because, man, that would have been so cool to have the Penguins tied up and go to 7. Mainly because if you're a Penguins fan and a Sid the Kid fan, this may be Crosby's last go. It may be the last time you see the big three, Crosby, Malkin, and Loeb. I was going to say Leclerc. That's not right. What's his name? It's the defenseman starts with La. I'm sorry, I can't think of it right now off the top of my head. But the big three, they may no longer be together. Might be end of an era for the Penguins. So sad to see him go out like that. But class act, I will say, said the kid. As soon as that goal happened, the very first thing he did was go over and console his goaltender. The goaltender that basically led in the goal that potentially retires Sidney Crosby. First thing he does isn't lament his own issues. It's go and take care of his goaltender. Class act for the kid. That's no longer cool. A kid. But yeah, sorry, were you going to say something there, Chris?
No, I said that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a reason, like I said this on the pod last time, he was voted by players as the most likely to become a coach. And stuff like that might be one. So, moving on to the second round of the playoffs, on this side of the bracket, similar to the Avalanche, I think, being too much for the Wild, I think the Hurricanes might be too much for the Flyers. Now, the Flyers have been putting up a bit of a fight, but the Hurricanes are just a better team. And they are up 2-0, so being up 2-0 and you're the better team, I think a good chance they go through. As I said, Sabres, Canadians, I just don't know enough about those teams because I didn't watch the Sabres series. I'm rooting for the Sabres, but I don't have enough insight to give you more information. So if I had to pick right now, I'm going to say Avs and Ducks because I'm gonna take my Ducks here since that was a toss-up. I'll change it up and make a bold prediction. So I'll go Avs and Ducks coming out of the West, and then we'll go Sabres, Canes coming out of the East. And then I've got Canes, Avalanche in the finals. What about you, Chris? I know with your expert hockey knowledge, what's your take?
Yeah, I don't want to say it's like 1-1-1-1 because that would be Avalanche, Knights, Sabres, Hurricanes. Avalanche, based on the scores, I'll say Avalanche comes out of that. I'll say the Golden Knights come out of the
I mean, if you think it's
Golden
1-1-1, you can pick that. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Then you have to pick between the ones to go to the finals, though.
Out of the West, we'll say Avalanche and the Golden Knights. Out of the East, we'll say Sabres and give me the Flyers.
Whoa, that's a bold strategy. But hey, I mean,
taking a flyer on the Flyers.
I mean, I will say that. I mean, they played hard. Like they were up a goal in that second game before, Carolina battled back and they did go to overtime. So, but that's what's so great about hockey. Game 1, 3-0 beating by Carolina. Game 2, Carolina has to come back and win an OT. You know what I mean? So. And then who you got win the whole thing?
I mean, honestly, it sounds like the Avalanche are too good. I asked a couple hockey buddies, I think, like earlier this season, I said, who's good this year? And they were like, the Avalanche. Seems like they've been favorites for a long time.
Yeah, I think going into the playoffs, people thought the Avs were the favorite. And after watching what they did to the Kings and how they've done against the Wild, and not that the Wild, by the way, the Wild aren't slackers by any means. I mean, they scored 6 goals in that 9-6 game, but like, when 6 goals still loses by 3, you're in for a bad time.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Dodgers in the playoffs, man. Like they can beat you in a 1-0, 2-1 game, and then, when your team scores 6 homers, they just happen to have, 6, 8, 10, right?
Yeah. Like if you look at the Wild's last 5 games, 5 goals combined, 6 combined, 7 combined, 7 combined, scoring 6 goals would have won every single game but this one. So, that's rough. All right, so that is our NHL analysis. I don't really have any great stories other than the Sid the Kid one because I did watch that whole game. And then lastly, let's kick it over to the NFL. Chris, I haven't got to talk to you on the pod. Tell me about the Cardinals draft. How did you feel about it?
So I'll be honest with you, I wasn't really paying attention to this draft. I was
Okay.
actually somewhat busy. But I sort of knew that you'd put me on the hot seat, so I looked into it a little bit.
Boned up a little bit? Sure, sure.
Yeah. So like the thing with the Cardinals is they've always been poorly managed, right? So I have no expectations at this point. I mean, at this point, I don't even know if they're going for a rebuild or not, right? I mean, it's like you fire the coach, you hire arguably some of the worst coaches that you can for this upcoming season. You name Jacoby Brissett as the starter, and you're like, great, we're tanking, right? We're tanking for Archie Manning, or we're tanking for somebody else, right? And it's like, so yeah, let's just write out Jacoby Brissett and do what you will. I mean, it's not going to be pretty. It wasn't pretty last year with Jacoby Brissett. It's not going to be pretty this year with Jacoby Brissett and an entirely new coaching staff. And then just pick the quarterback coming out of next year's draft because it seems like there's, you know, at least a few that will be top five draft picks. Would love Archie Manning, but I don't think we're going to get him.
I
But
mean,
we'll see
it can't
how
be a
that
worse
goes.
quarterback class than this one, right? This class was
Exactly.
awful.
Yeah, and then they go. I'm going to skip a couple picks here, and then they draft Carson Beck, right?
That's the one I was
And
going to
like
ask you about. Yeah.
this reminded me of. Do you remember when they drafted Josh Rosen, and then
Yes.
a year later they drafted Kyler Murray? And it was like, why did you draft Josh Rosen? Like, I know like you can't tell the future, and you can't like figure out like, okay, like we're gonna have the ability to draft Kyler Murray, but it's like, do you not have the foresight to not draft a quarterback every single season, thinking this guy might be the guy? Because, or you're just playing a volume game, and if they're playing a volume game, that's insane. You know, like if they're gonna say we're gonna draft a quarterback every single year because we're looking for the right quarterback, that's never gonna work out, right?
Yeah, and,
Um,
and also like if your plan is to pick up some young talent to rebuild to be ready to get a high draft pick and draft a QB next year, then why are you using your third round pick on a quarterback? Take a flyer on one of the sixth or seventh round QBs, right? If you're gonna do that, the bulk strategy. You know what I mean? Why are
yes,
you going
yes,
for? Because you're going for a mid tier guy, right? Because a third rounder is not a top tier quarterback in the draft, so you didn't go for one of the top tier guys to try to hit, and it's not one of the late rounders who, hey, if we get lucky, great, and if we not, it doesn't matter. You're investing serious enough draft capital by using a third round pick on a guy that's a mid tier prospect. That just doesn't make a ton of sense.
yeah, and I wouldn't even like, yeah, I guess we could call him mid-tier, but it's kind of like you've seen everything you need to out of Carson Beck. He played in college for like what, 6 years?
Yeah, he played forever. Yeah, he was a Georgia Bulldog before he was a Miami Hurricane.
Yeah, I was surprised this year in college football or this past year when like I heard U of Miami was good and then I realized their quarterback was Carson Beck. I was
Yeah,
like, didn't that guy win a championship with Georgia or get to the championship with Georgia when he was like a junior or a senior?
heaven forbid they give me his stats. There we go. Cool, no information available. Well, maybe you could tell me about his college career. Thanks, guys. Jeez, there we go. Yeah, played 4 years at Georgia before he did the thing where, oh, I've graduated, so now I'm going to go play somewhere else.
Yeah, yeah, which is kind of insane
And that
because you
didn't and
think
that didn't
that,
make any sense to me anyway, because it's like you won because I think 2023 is when they won the chip, right? So like he wins the championship in Georgia, is the start of the next year. Admittedly, does play worse, but like is still serviceable, And then he up and goes to Miami. Like I guess Miami just paid him more money. I don't know.
yeah, I guess it's weird now with like all the NIL and stuff. And when you look at his stats from Miami, it's not like it was better than his junior year at Georgia.
No, I mean he. The only thing is he did get to throw the ball a lot more. Like statistically, it wasn't that much better, but like he got to throw it a lot more. So maybe he wanted to be part of a more passing offense. Maybe he just wanted to get out of the SEC. Try to have better stats going into the draft.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. I mean, it worked because the Cardinals spent a third round draft pick on
Yeah, and
him.
you have to wonder too if his 2024 is as good as his 2023. Does he go pro then instead of waiting another year?
Yeah.
But maybe he just knew, hey, it's a weak quarterback class. If I wait another year and have a good year at Miami, which he did. They were in the college football playoffs as well. They're in the championship game, for God's sakes. He did not play well in that game, but he was in the championship game. Um,
If he had this like line of thought, kudos to him or his agent,
yeah.
like big time.
Or it could just be like, I don't know, if you. And I always wonder about this because, like, in order to be good and play at the highest level, you have to believe in yourself. You have to have that self confidence. Even if it's misguided or misplaced, you have to have that. No one is truly good at something if they think they're bad. That's not how it works at the professional level, right? Maybe on the playground,
Right.
some kid thinks he's bad but is actually good. But at the professional level, to be good, you have to believe in yourself. So it's really hard for me to think that, like, this guy had the thought process of, well, I'm probably not going to be an NFL starter, so I may as well stay in college as long as I can. But at the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
time,
no,
like
that's a good
that
point.
actually argument makes a lot of sense. If you think, hey, I'm not going to be an NFL pro, but I can make a lot of money doing an NIL deal and playing in college one more time, maybe I should do that.
And I think that's the draw for NIL these days, right? It's almost like when you're a senior or a super senior, like you have this sort of thought of like college, which has now essentially turned into semi-pro, right? Or going pro. And now it's like a lot more attractive if you can think of it as like a semi-pro, right? Because before, all the college guys just wanted to leave to the NFL to make money, right?
Right.
Like, who cares if you're playing special teams? Like, you're going to be on a salary and you're going to finally be making money. But these days, if Miami's offering Carson Beck, who knows, 3, 4, 5 million bucks. I mean, it's like he's not going to get that in his first year in the NFL, right? If he declares his after his senior year at Georgia, or at least I don't think he would. Um, so, maybe it is that just sort of like that gap can now be filled with NIL, and so we might start seeing a lot more people like Carson Beck, like transfer schools in their senior or super senior year.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, 23 years old, like, and that's just wild when you think about, like, I don't know how old you were, like, but like, I graduated high school at 17. If you go 4 years to college, that's 21.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. So he probably redshirted, and then he had 4 years at Georgia, and then I don't know, somehow he was able to play out a fifth year.
Yeah. Maybe like I think you can redshirt if you play less than 4 games or something. You can still be considered a redshirt, something ridiculous like that.
Oh, I
So
see.
yeah, and
Yeah, and then I know COVID 2020 messed a bunch of things up. So like a lot of people have that extra year if they started college like during 2020 or were in college during 2020.
yeah, for sure. Well, and also like the whole redshirt concept, like the whole point of that was originally to be for injury purposes, but now you can redshirt for any reason.
Yeah. I didn't even realize that. I just
Yeah.
always assumed redshirting was just a thing.
No, so it originally was for injuries, but now people just do it all the time. I wanted to see
Yeah.
Diego Pavia was in college for like a lifetime. See how many years he played. Okay, he only played 4 years, but or at least only has 4 seasons listed. But he I felt like he was looking for like a seventh year of eligibility, so he must not have played in some of the years that he was in college. Because he is how old is he? Yeah, he's 24. He's even older. So
Yeah, yeah. These guys must go just play with the practice teams, not play a single game, and then, once they're what, like 19 or 20 take the field?
yeah. Because I mean, he graduated at 24 and he played the last 4 seasons. So his years as a starter were was 21, 22, 23, 24 years of age.
Yeah.
Which is like, as we mentioned, 21 is when we, like when a lot of kids would have graduated back in the day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So anyways, those are my thoughts on Carson Beck. I do actually like that they drafted a guard with their second pick. I'm okay with that. Anytime Arizona spends any draft capital on an O-line, I'm happy. Are they going to pay him? Probably not. But at the same time, if he can play for a few years and he ends up being a decent uh, O lineman, I'm all for that. The Jeremiah Love pick, I mean, I get what everybody's saying. It is what it is. They should have maybe traded out of that position. Who knows? Sometimes I feel like the Cardinals are kind of like they're bringing a knife to a gunfight type of team, and they just went with best off the board. you know, at least they didn't like fumble the pick, if that makes sense.
Right.
Right? Like at least they picked the best off the board. Um, so, I'm got mixed feelings about that. Yeah, it wasn't a good pick for the team makeup, but at the same time, at least they realized his value. Um, that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt too. Like as a Raider fan, when we took Genty last year, it's like he was the best available player. So I'm glad we at least took the best available player. Was he what we needed? No, I mean we did need a running back. We didn't have an offensive line, so it didn't matter how good our running back was. So like from that standpoint, like it wasn't necessarily a great pick. But I'm glad we at least took. Hey, this is the best player available to us. We are going to take him. So for what you're saying about Jeremiah Love, like, did the Cardinals need him? No, they signed Tyler Algier. They still have James Conner. They did not need Jeremiah Love, but it could have been a lot worse, as you said. They could have completely blown the pick by taking a guy who doesn't deserve to be a top 3 pick, and you'd feel very differently.
Exactly. Exactly. So at least it's kind of like I don't know, like a C pick versus like an F pick,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
And then, yeah, I mean, everybody else, I obviously don't know that many players outside of like the top three guys, or sorry, the
Well, and,
first
and
three
we're a
rounds.
fantasy football podcast, so we're going to talk about the skill position players. We're not going to talk about a lot of the guards and the defensive tackles. Not that they aren't important; they absolutely are, but just like that doesn't grease the wheels when it comes to the
Yeah,
picks.
yeah. But at the same time, like, what are the Cardinals doing drafting a wide receiver? Like, we have wide receivers.
I mean, Michael Wilson
Like
averaged 37 targets a game with
with
with the
Jacoby Brissett.
yeah with Jacoby, yeah, who's now your
Yeah,
starter.
yeah. Yeah, and we've got Marvin Harrison Jr. spent a ton of draft capital on him, right? And so like making a wide receiver pick with round 5, I don't necessarily know if I agree with that. It's just like I don't know, man. I feel like sometimes the Cardinals are trying to do the sexy thing, and they're just not a sexy team, you know?
Huh. Yeah, it's hard to be sexy out there in the desert. All right, man. Well,
You said it.
thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate you coming on and joining me. Appreciate you being the sponsor of the pod. Gulshani Lee, best law firm around. Hit him up if you need some help. Any final thoughts or anything you want to talk about that we didn't cover today, Chris?
No, no, if you've made it this far, thank you for listening to all my uneducated takes.
Yeah, I can't believe people listen to the end. It always makes me feel good about myself. Like, hey, maybe I'm not completely talking out my ass this week. I do my best not to. Anyway, thanks everyone for coming out and listening, and thanks Chris for being here. And we hope to see you guys next time. And yeah, peace. We're out of here. Play us out, Scotty.